Hello, today we're going to be looking at Introduction to Trigonometry to understand what trigonometry is and learn the basic functions to use trigonometry to find missing angles. So consider this right angle triangle. When we are looking for the third angle there, the first angle there is 45 degrees and we have a right angle. So if we are looking for the missing angle there, we can do the whole triangle is 180. So we're going to do 180 degrees minus 90 minus 45, and that will give us 45 degrees. So the missing angle here will be 45. The missing angle there will be 45. If we do this, it will be 45. So we have this to be 45. So 45 plus 45 plus 90, that gives it 180 degrees. And we know that the sum of a triangle is 180 degrees. Okay, we go to the next one. So now, consider the right angle here. If we are looking for this angle, we can use Pythagoras theorem, which we did in the lesson before. So how do we do this? You can do your a squared minus b squared. That will give us your c squared. So your a squared, this is your a squared, and then this is your b squared, and that will give us your c squared. So our a squared is 3, the b squared is 4 squared, and that will give us the c squared. So 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, and then that gives us 25. So we are not looking for c squared, we're looking for c. So we're going to find the square root of 25, and that will give you your c. So your c is 5. So this place is 5. Now we can use Pythagoras theory to be able to find the missing side. Okay, now we go to the next one. Let's rub this off nicely, and then we can go to the next slide. So that will now be telling us about what we are learning today. So we know that as long as we have the given two angles in a triangle, we can find the third side. And when we are given a right angle, we can find the third side using Pythagoras theory that we did in the last one. So the next one now, here we have theta. Theta could be any angle, and we have a right angle. The first thing we want to do is to label our right angle. How do we do that? This side, the longest side, is always the hypotenuse. So we have the hypotenuse there. Now, if you look at this, the angle here is straight on, and that will be your opposite. So this is what we call the opposite. And the last side is always the adjacent. So here too, the first one, try to label the hypotenuse, then go opposite the angle, and then you have the adjacent, which is the third one. So once you know how to label it, your work becomes very, very easy. Okay, so now we label that. That is your adjacent, and that is your opposite. And we're going to use this to be able to find the angles that we're looking for. So we have what we call SOHCAHTOA. Now the SO is your sine, and your sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Your cos is your adjacent divided by the hypotenuse, and the tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. Now the trig function we use, sine, cos, and tan, depends on which two side lengths are given to us. We use an abbreviation to help us remember which two sides lengths are used for each function, and this abbreviation is called the SOHCAHTOA. So for example, we said SO means sine, which is opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, now we have this. The first thing you want to do, always label the side. So we know that this is the hypotenuse, that's your opposite, and then your adjacent. Now let's tackle this trig question. The first thing, label it. So let's label it. Now we've done that. The next thing, decide which function we will use. Now we can use the sine, we can use the cos, we can use the tan, but we don't know the one to use. So one of the ways to help us to find out what to use, we quickly do that. So Okay, so we know that the sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So do we have the opposite? Yes, we have opposite. So opposite is 5 over hypotenuse. We have hypotenuse 8.2. So we are definitely going to use that. Cos, do we have adjacent? Adjacent, we don't have adjacent. So we can't write anything there. Hypotenuse, we have hypotenuse. So 8.2. So we can't use this because we don't have the adjacent, the top one. Now, can we use tan? Let's go and find out. Opposite, we have 5, but we don't have the adjacent, so we don't have adjacent. Because we don't have that, we can't use it. So the only one we can use there is our tan. And let's go and use our tan. So let's rub this off nicely. Now we know we're going to use our tan. We can use our cos, and we can use our tan. You can only use the sign that is there. So that's how you find out which one you're going to use. So now the first thing we're going to use is we're going to do a sine because the angle there is x. Sine x equals to opposite over hypotenuse. So sine x is opposite is 5 and the hypotenuse is 8.2. Now, the next thing we're going to trigger answer. How do we do that? We're now going to do sine x is 5 divided by 2. How can we find x from this? So what we're going to do is get your calculator. Can you see the first one? We have this shift sign. That's not the one we're going to use. We're going to use this. We're going to use that shift. So press that shift and then let me see whether you get the right answer with this. So the next thing you're going to do sine, which is opposite over hypotenuse, and we've got 5 divided by 8.6. So we now do sine shift 5 divided by 8.2. So if you do that, you're going to get 37.60. Yep, I hope you got that on your calculator as well. Well done to you if you did that. Let's go to the next one. So our calculator will do the work for us. So let's look at another one. The first one, make sure you label the side. So once you have labeled the side, this is what we're going to get. Now, what do we use? So here we have, we can't use sine here. Why can't we use sine? Because sine is opposite over hypotenuse and we don't have the opposite. Can we use cos? Cos is adjacent over hypotenuse. Yes, we have our cos. Can we use tan? Tan is opposite. We don't have opposite, so we can use tan. So the only thing we can use there is cos. So now that we can use our cos is adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent is 5.2 and hypotenuse is 8.8. Now we can work with that. So on trig it. So if you do cos 5.2 divided by 8.8 in your calculator, and then you put a shift, cos, you're going to get 53.8. Yep. All right then. I hope you got that. Let's try another one. So try this, and then let me see how you get on with that. Pause the screen and try that. Did you get A is 27.7? Well done to you if you got that. Try another one. And then we can recap now. Use this size to find any missing angles. You can do that now. Each side length has a name depending on where our missing angle is. And we have 3 trigonometry functions: sine, cos, and tangent. So the function we use depends on which side are given to us. And then we use this abbreviation SOHCAHTOA. To find an angle, we need to inverse or untrig our fraction. Okay, so that brings us to the end of introduction to trigonometry. We'll do some more in another lesson.